Hello New Zealand, thank you very much for joining us. I'm Philip Duncan. Well, we're kicking off this week with the Misery Index. That's the animated wind map that also includes the feels like temperature. In other words, which areas feel like below zero. So the areas in pale blue, that is it. And so the South Island is cold, a little bit around Central Plateau, but really this wind map shows you why Southland and Otago are kicking off this week a bit wintry. That southerly wind is coming right up and brushing you. But the further north you go, the further west those winds are coming from. So still cold, but not as cold as the lower South Island. But we're in for a major change in our weather pattern. We've had big highs and subtropical northerlies and polar southerlies for the last few weeks. Now we're about to get the westerlies, maybe for the next 10 to 14 days. That's a lot. At the coldest time of the year, our weather is going to be coming from the west, which means not a lot of drama maybe with our temperatures. So the wind will be blowing in this way on Tuesday. You'll start to see that change coming through. It is still cold for some in the south, and there'll be snow up in the mountains. Just a few light showers though around the western side. By Wednesday, there's a bit of a northwesterly flow coming through that will push the temperatures up in the east of the North Island and the north of the North Island. The South Island, you're a little bit messier. You've got heavy rain on the west coast, there'll be snow on the mountains, and the east coast is mostly dry. Now by Thursday, still got that northwest flow, very light one for some areas. It might be a little more west to southwest, and that's why we call it a westerly quarter wind. It'll swing around northwest, west and southwest. But overall, those aren't too brutal, those directions. It's not sort of like a subtropical northerly or a polar southerly. So that's why a lot of our weather is going to be coming from just south of Australia or from the Tasman Sea area. Now, as we get towards the end of the week, you can see that northwest wind is sort of building around the country. There's rain still on the west coast, and it's mostly dry in the east. And that is the theme for the next several days or the next 2 weeks. Very little rain coming to this eastern side. And there's a little bit of rain for Australia, but the next 2 to 3 weeks is dominated by that enormous block of high pressure. So their droughts, they're not getting better in winter, they're actually getting worse. Now, as we head in towards the weekend for New Zealand, no real change. The westerlies continue. They're northwest as the weekend builds up, and as the weekend ends, we're likely to get that slightly cooler southwest change behind it. But you can see plenty more westerlies coming for next week. And in fact, next week looks even windier with those westerlies, which will encourage drier weather in the east. And that takes me to the rain map. This is the 7-day rain map from now through till next Monday. And the areas you see here in blue, that is basically no rain, maybe 5 millimeters if you're lucky. So that is very much dry conditions for the whole eastern side of the country, right up to about Gisborne. And then even up there, you're sort of into that green zone, 10 to 15 millimeters. That's over a whole week in winter. Same story up around parts of Auckland and Northland. Maybe you might get a little bit more with those showers, might push you up to 20 or 30 millimeters, but the real rain that is over here on the west coast, right off the scale, well, not off the scale, top of the scale, 200 millimeters, maybe more coming for you. So wet weather for the west coast, drier though for many other places. That is all from me. We'll update you again on Tuesday with the latest with this new westerly change that's coming in.